Okay. Now, Perek Dalet Pasuk Yud Gimel. So we just addressed until now the power of unity and the handicap of being on your own, and the difference there is between being two, between having another partner, or being three people.
3 is better than 2.
Yeah. No. 2 is better than 1. 3 is a different level. Right? The Mamela doesn't compare the 3 to the 2. Tov Yeled Misken Vechacham Mimelech Zaken Uchsil Asher Lo Yada Leizaer Od. Right? So better is a young Chacham and Misken and poor. You better be young, poor, and smart than be old, dumb, and rich. And be a king, dumb and rich. Dumb and old, sorry. Asher lo yada leizaer, that doesn't know how to protect himself. Meaning,
Rav, surprise.
Oh, no, shalom aleichem, shalom aleichem.
I miss your beautiful face.
Me too. A lot.
Thank
lot.
you.
Hi.
Okay. Now it's the serious class.
I'm sorry. I almost sat on the side.
I'm joking.
Rob, I feel like I'm with you. Stanley tells me the whole class when we see each other at night.
Baruch Hashem. Okay. So, all right. So here Shlomo HaMelech makes a difference between the young, the Yeled, that is misken, that is vulnerable and weak, but he is Chacham. That's his asset. So it better be weak, okay, smart, and young. 3 parameters. Young, vulnerable, and smart.
Vulnerable physically, Rav?
Financially, dependent, misken, hazit, a hazit case, right? You better be young, hazit, and smart than being a king that's old and foolish. What and why? Lo yada leizaer od. Because the king doesn't know what to be careful of. So this is the reason, the differentiating point between the two. And we're going to dive into these 3 factors. Yeled, a kid, is by definition someone that's under scrutiny and control of his parents. He doesn't make decisions. And everything he does is guided, is controlled, is monitored by the authority that's controlling him. So his ability to freedom, or his access to freedom is limited to close to 0. And he is a misken, meaning he has nothing to lean on physically and financially. So he cannot relate to any stability that he controls or that he knows he has. I.e., a child that is poor, okay, doesn't behave like the child that is rich. A child that lives in a wealthy home takes for granted the financial power of his family, and allows himself to do certain things and lean and behave a certain way because he knows that he has the power of the money behind it. A poor kid doesn't have that. So even that level of comfort that would allow the child, to behave a certain way, would take a certain risk in life, he doesn't have it. And even that is that level, okay, as long as there is chokhmah, that he is a chacham, okay? The chacham is the Yetzer HaTov. The chacham is basically the ability to evaluate situation with clarity. That's better, says Shlomo HaMelech. Because why? Now we're jumping to the end. Because him, Yodea Le'Izayah, he knows how to maneuver, okay, life, and how to be careful from obstacles and failures in life. Please, I apologize. One second. I apologize.
Could wait. I don't know why you did that.
Because this is more important. And after I have to go back to the thought, I'm selfish. I don't want to have to think where I stopped. It's harder than just to continue where we're at. Okay.
Sure, you're selfish. Sure you are.
So, Tov Yeled Misken V'Chacham.
That was enough of a lesson for the day.
Yeah. Okay. Asher lo yada le'izayach. So the Chacham knows how to maneuver. Says Shlomo HaMelech, if you have wisdom and clarity in life, that's all you need to reach your potential. Now we know that this is what Shlomo chose in Giv'on, when God came to him and told him, what you want? Do you want wealth or do you want wisdom? He chose wisdom and he got everything. Okay? So says Shlomo HaMelech, do not rely, and that's basically what he wants to say. If you want to be successful in life, do not rely on your title, being a melech, a king, socially powerful, your relationship, your connections. No. Do not rely on your wealth or on what you think gives you strength socially and financially. But what you have to rely is only on your ability to make the right choices, to your knowledge. Because if you do rely on your status, or if you do rely on your wealth, then what happens is that you become paralyzed. Your sensors, okay, that test the risk and the stress test of life are now shut down. You're filled. So if you're the king, you don't look what you can let go. That's it. I'm king. I'm a king. I'm respected by everybody. I'm powerful. I have a lot of money. So I don't need to go and fight for anything, and I don't need to be careful. I have people doing it for me. I rely on others to keep my standard as a king and as a wealthy man. Says Shlomo HaMelech, the second you let go of your ability to identify the risk, lehizaer, and to be careful, this is when you start collapsing. Lifetime lesson.
Say that one more time. So that if you failed to identify the risk is because you grew up with the privilege that didn't make you aware of the obstacles or train you for the obstacles?
I'm sorry?
So you said if you fail to be aware of the obstacles,
Yeah.
that and the risks, you're in great danger of that. And you said something before about children born to privilege are not trained in the obstacles. So actually the privilege sounds like a handicap to them. They sound like they're disabled from the privilege.
Yeah. But for what reason? Because you take for granted the level of your status, the melech, right? And zaken,
and you think that's your koach.
Exactly. And zaken, you're old, meaning there's no more vivacity in your need to progress.
But Rav, even Shlomo, who chose wisdom, isn't
Yeah.
wisdom just another form of false koach because it's granted by Hashem?
Everything is granted by Hashem.
Correct. But what's the difference between wealth and wisdom? Wealth gives you a certain power, and wisdom gives you a certain power.
Yeah, until your ability to identify the risk.
But maybe the wisdom could even give you a false sense of security.
Okay, very good. That's why he's saying he's not talking about the melech chacham. He's talking about the yeled misken chacham.
The miskin, is that like the Syrian word miskin?
Yes, that's it's not a Syrian word. It's actually a Hebrew word.
But in Arabic they say miskin.
Well, no, a lot of Arabic words. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so basically, do not lean on things that are superficial. Do not lean on your title, superficial, because that can change anytime. David HaMelech went from being a king to a nobody. Shlomo HaMelech, okay? And don't lean on wealth. If you want to lean on those two things to protect yourself, to be safe, it's wrong. This is what will take you down.
For sure.
Good.
Rav, I heard one time a father tell his son, and it was a tragic, tragic statement. He told his son, "Son, what's the golden rule?" He asked his son, "What's the golden rule?" And in front of 20 people, and they were very wealthy people, and his son answered him, because obviously he taught him, "He who has the gold makes the rules." I shivered from fear listening to it.
Well, this is if we go back to Mein Kampf, that was the philosophy of Hitler. That's exactly the philosophy of Hitler. Wow. We're in a jungle, and the rule is who's the stronger survive and dictates. Mm-hmm. And we addressed it. That the conscience is according to Hitler. One of his selling points to his philosophy was to convince people that conscience is an invention of Jews, to weaken humanity and control them. Mm-hmm. So yes, a lot of people, and by the way, money's power, money dictates, money talks, all this, money talks, money's power. This is a slang that people, it's right in people's mouth all the time. Yeah. Now, Shlomo HaMelech also says, "Izaharu mibnei aniyim, shemehem tetzeh Torah." Be careful of the kids of the poor, because from them will come out the Torah. What does that mean? So the literal explanation is that if a family is poor, the girl, doesn't matter, the child that is dedicated for success will reach to the stars. We'll want to break the situation and the pain, and we want to put a stop to the pain and not give to his kids the feeling of the experience he had when he grew up. Says Shlomo HaMelech, Hizaru, be careful from them, meaning protect them, help them. Azhara is what? Is a protection, right? Hizaru is be careful, care for them, because that's where the real potential is. And that doesn't, it's not only rich and poor in money, it's the behavior of the rich and the behavior of the poor. You know, there's a very, very wealthy man that I'm sure everybody heard of. Okay? He asked me not to say, not to never, he's no longer with us. And he asked me to never share this secret, okay, with people. So I cannot mention his name. But a man, I tell you his name, you're in awe. Okay? One of the most influential Jews of his time told me every Wednesday, now, he was known also to be one of the wealthiest Jews at his time. Every Wednesday, every Wednesday, he would move from his normal life and shift to a life where he had nothing, not him and his kids.
Wow.
One day a week, he would live like a poor man. And he said, "What?" I asked him, "Hey, now you see the house?" And it's a joke, you know, like, you know. He sent me his car to come pick me up from the airport, a brand new Bentley. The house is 6 times every other house in the neighborhood. You know, it's like malchut. The guy, mamash malchut. Yirat shamayim tzaddik. So I said, why? He's like, because I need my kids to know that money is not taken for granted. So I want them to feel what it's like to live like a poor person, so that if Chaz v'Shalom something happens to them, they've tasted it.
Rob, didn't Rothschild go sit with his coffin also to do something similar?
It's a story. It's a story. Yes, it's a story. Yes, it's a story. But it's not the Rothschild family, but it's a very, very famous family, Ashkenazi family, extremely famous.
No, I'm saying, isn't there a story that Rothschild used to go out of his house and he had a coffin there?
It's a story, yes, about him. It's a story. But there's also a story that he would go in his safe every
Oh, really?
Yeah. He died in his safe. The safe closed on him. He died in his safe.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Read
know
the
that.
whole story of the Rothschild.
That's the one that he said, "I'll never starve to death," and then he died in a safe?
That I would now, that what?
Also, a rich man, I heard a story that a wealthy man said, "One thing I know for sure, I'll never die of starvation." And then he got locked in his safe and he died of starvation.
Yes. It's the same story.
Because he opened his mouth and said, "I'll never die of starvation."
But that's Min HaShamayim. I don't know. We're not going into the Heshbon of Hashem, but yes, those are the stories. But Leavdil, this man, by the way, the Rothschild family, Hashem Yishmor, is, there's nobody else. That's it. You have 2 of them, and even their descendants, you don't even know. Okay, that doesn't matter. But okay, bottom line. Okay, we don't. Kulam tzaddikim, kulam kedoshim, kulam tehorim. We're going back to this family, okay? And he understood that in life you cannot take anything for granted. Comes Shlomo HaMelech and say, if you protect the ani that's in you, the poor that's in you, the vulnerability that's in you, the one that cannot depend on anything, mehem tetzeh Torah. This is how you will bring out wisdom. Torah is wisdom. Torah is clarity. Torah is progress. If you want to progress in life, never, ever let the vulnerable you die. Going back to say, never be comfortable.
Live in fear of your vulnerability.
Always. Within yourself. And it's a balance. Not too much vulnerability, because then you get paralyzed. Just enough so that you're empowered to keep growing and keep pushing. Oh, next pasuk. כי מבית הסורים יצא למלוך, כי גם במלכותו נולד רש. The king, מבית הסורים, יצא למלוך. what controls you, what rules over you, or comes from a place of Bet Asurim, from a dark place, from a place of
Prison.
And from there, Yatza Limloch. Come there was a breakthrough that led to Malchut.
Yosef.
גם במלכותו, even in his Malchut, Nolad Rash is born somebody that is weak, somebody that is Rash, that is Ani. So Rashi says the following. Ki mibet asurim yatza lamelech, and it's very important because this is one of the long Rashis that we have. Makom atinofet ve'aserachon. Bet asurim is something that's dirty, something that smells, something that's despicable, right? The place of the prison is despicable. Ki gam bemalchuto, mi shemelech ba'adam nolad harash hamisken hatov mimenu. הוא בא מתוך טהרה, ולא מתוך תינופת, כן? הרי חמקר דרשו במדרש. And then he says, basically what Rashi says is the following. You're better off being Rash, being a poor, being someone that grew up in the smell, being with nothing. And you break through Yatzar, Limloch, to become a king, and to rule, and to be in control. Why? Because even when he's a king, Nolad Rash, he knows that he's born like poor. He's born like nobody. Meaning when you had nothing and you got everything, even when you have everything, right? If you're Chacham, you never forget where you came from. You never forget the times of pain. So it's almost as if Shlomo HaMelech tells us, you don't want your kids to taste wealth.
Wealth is a disability.
Huh?
Wealth is a disability. Being born into wealth is an extra challenge that someone born into poverty only has upside.
Correct. Now, we know a lot of people that had nothing and eventually became very successful, but lacked the chokhmah and forgot where they came from.
Of course. That's the classic example. You forget your roots.
Exactly. So the key of the pasuk goes back to the Tov Yeled, right? Why is the Yeled misken vechacham? Okay, the one that's regimented, the one that's being controlled. By who? By who is being controlled? The Yeled. He has a parent, right? He has an authority. And the Yeled, go eat, go shower, go sleep, do your homework. Don't watch this, go do that. Why didn't you do your bed? Why didn't you do that? There's an authority. Who's that authority? It's our Yetzirah Tov. It's our intellect. It's our neshama. So a lot of people say the Torah is your authority. I didn't sign up for this. Well, all there is a restraint. I can't do this. I can't do that. I cannot play tennis on Shabbat. I cannot. You knew it was coming. I love you. There's restraints. So there is a parent. So I become, why am I? I'm a kid. You have to tell me what to do. I don't want to know. You know how many of these complaints I get every day? Rabbi, I don't want to ask you because then you're going to. I don't want to hear the answer. I want to be free. I want to be melech. I want to control my life. I want to be the king. No problem. But then you're melech ksil. You're a fool. You're a fool. And what happens when you're a fool? You lose your senses to the risk factor. What risk factor? The risk factor of the outcome of the Torah. When your father tells you don't run and cross the street, he knows why. But you know better. Daddy, I know better. And you're going to tell me I'm a big boy. And lo alenu, how many tragedies we know of that I'm a big boy. Shlomo tells us, don't try to think that you're the big boy. Don't try to be the king. You can, but you lose the ability to be careful. You don't realize the danger and the liability you're taking. So be the yeled, be the child that has the authority controlling him. Which authority? Wisdom and the Torah.
Rav,
Even,
Rav.
1 second, even if it makes you misken, even if you think you're losing, as long as you're chacham. A very, very good example. A lot of people, things change after that, but had to decide whether they go to work on Shabbat or they don't work on Shabbat. And they know that if they don't work on Shabbat, they're going to lose their parnasa and they have to feed their family. We know a lot of stories of people that would be thrown out of their job every Friday because they didn't want to lose the Shabbat. And we know others that had no choice. Okay, pikuach nefesh, I'm not judging. We're not here to judge. I'm just saying the concept. Says Shlomo HaMelech, sometimes being a scrutinized child make you feel like you're a misken, make you feel like you're not in control, make you feel you are vulnerable, make you feel you're losing out. You're losing out. If I don't go to St. Bart with everybody, I'm losing out. If I'm not on that deal, I'm losing out. I need to break my morality. I need to break the rules in order not to lose out and feel like a misken. Says Shlomo HaMelech. What's the flip side of that? So you want to be the king, you want to make your decision, okay? And you want to be zaken, you know better than everybody, right? The zaken is the one that has experience. So you want to rely your decisions on your experience, on what you know better. And on what? On the feeling of being a king and making your own decisions, right? I rule, I choose, I'm a king. And you know what? And I know what I'm talking about. I know better. I'm a zaken. I have experience. No problem. But no, says Shlomo HaMelech, that your liability is tremendous. Why? Lo yada leizaer, because you will lose your ability to be careful. What if we go back to the shiurim previously? What you lose is the siyata dishmaya, is the interaction of God in nature with you. The second you tell God, I know better than you, God said, no problem, you're on your own, baby. Faddal. So what does that mean? You're not being punished. The punishment is that you will not see through his glasses the clarity of the situation. That's the problem. It's like a balance. Yeah? You have a balance. And it's perfectly in equilibrium. On one hand, you have Hashem. On the other hand, you have you. Right? The second I take off one weight, what happens? Boom. Right? Says the Rambam that this is the pshat. Yichbid et libo. Hashem made the heart of Paro heavy. He didn't have to put more weight on Paro. All he did, says the Rambam, he took his presence out of nature of in the world of Paro, and that was enough to bury Paro. So, Akadosh Baruch Hu, when a person decides that he knows better, when a person says, I have experience, I know, Hashem said, no problem. But what happens? Your interaction with nature fades down. You are no longer able to read the map properly. Because that clarity that shines from nature, that it's called the will of Hashem in nature, is no longer available to you. So you are no longer able to really assess the risk properly. This is what Shlomo will come and tell us. You know, I was a bachur in yeshiva in the Mir, not in the Mir, in YU. And somebody very close to me was getting married. And I was already a little bit crazy and trying to, to bring people to teshuvah and to become better. And from the moment they got engaged, both of them decided to become shomer negiah, not to be physically together. Okay? Until the wedding. And to build a kedusha, the father, who's a nice businessman, whatever, very strong authority, sees that his son is he's nervous. Now, why he was nervous? He was nervous because he's getting married, because he has to prepare, because a lot of reasons, and probably because he wasn't physically intimate with girlfriend also. So he called his son in, and he says, you have to be. It's normal. It's natural. You have to be. And if not with her, go with others. It's okay until you get married. So now the guy is conflicted between his friend, Rabbi, who's giving him advice based on the Torah, which is black and white, and his father is telling him, the reason why you're not thinking straight, the reason why you're nervous, the reason why you're snapping is because you're not intimate. So go and load. It's okay. So he comes to me, he said, I have to do kibbud. I have to do kibbud avayim. I have to listen to my father. It's natural. It's healthy. So what do you want me to tell you? He's like, my father says, forget about what the rabbi tells you. Forget about what the Torah tells you. Believe me, listen to me. I know. I have experience. The same, okay, time passed by, okay? Eventually, the father gets, Baruch Hashem, he cured. He's hit with the machala in the prostate. In the prostate. Throughout the process, I get a call from him, and he tells me, I need to do teshuvah because, and he reminded me the conversation he had with his son. So I think I gave my son the wrong idea, and this is what Hashem is punishing me. Now, whether it's true or not is irrelevant. The message you learn from here is like his conscience and how he connected the dots. So at one point, yes, eventually he humbled, he learned more Torah, and he understood better that sometimes you need to know that you don't know, okay? And it's okay to know that you don't know. But at the time, he was the Melech Zaken Beksi. And we don't realize that we put ourselves in danger. Okay? So by adapting the behavior of the Yeled Misken and Chacham, what you create is not only your ability to be careful and to progress, but you will end up becoming a melech. But not only a melech that remembers where he came from.
So Rab, what I wanted to say was, you said, somebody asks you a question, they don't want to know the answer or whatever. But I find a lot of the time, if I'm listening to Mishneh Torah or I'm learning, I feel like the more I know sometimes, I feel like the more I could get away with, because I understand the laws better.
That's fine.
Probably a danger.
No, absolutely not. Knowledge is far from being danger. Now, if you talk to me about the guys that go to Cipriani, okay, with the foil, the metal, the paper, and tells Cipriani, please put here is my pot, and put the fish on my pot, and when you bring in the plate, bring it with aluminum, and it's okay, right? That's somebody that wants to outsmart the system, okay? And this is not somebody with knowledge; it's somebody with selected knowledge. What about bishulakum? What about the fact that the goy makes the food? And what about all the ingredients that he puts inside the fish, and the olive oil and the spices and the this and the that? How about the knife and forks that he uses? So it's called selective information. Yeah, for sure. With selective information, you become very vicious and you become very dangerous. But that's just because you are vicious and dangerous. You understand? But if you're honest with yourself and you really want to know, you learn. And you learn. And inachinami, kohade teradif. The truth is the more you know, the more you have to be able to say mutar. It's allowed. Who had this power in our generation? Chacham Ovadia Yosef. Chacham Ovadia was able to tell people it's allowed, it's allowed, it's allowed, it's allowed. And a lot of rabbis were against him. How can you say it's allowed? Because he mastered the information. So to say asur, it's easy. When you don't know, you say asur, you're not allowed. But the ability to say mutar, this is powerful. This is powerful. You understand? So
yes.
Here you see the flip side of the power of knowledge.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, cool.
Good? ראיתי את כל החיים. Are we good with these two פסוקים? ראיתי את כל החיים המהלכים תחת השמש. I revisited, right? All the life that happens under the sun. עם הילד השני. Which is, okay, Rashi here says, אשר יתקיים תחת אותו הדור, שם נוח ובניו. Right? When there is interaction between two kids, אשר יעמוד תחתיו. So now is the second generation and the second son. So רק שנייה. I remember seeing something beautiful on this. 1 second. הילד השני, says the Ibn Ezra, is not referring, and we're going to go back to the two interpretations, the second son or the son, the second, meaning the second in command, right? You have the Melech and the second in command, who's about to become a king. Asher Ya'amod Tahtav, that comes and take the position of the father. So, Ra'iti et kol ha'chaim ha'me'alchim, I analyzed the whole life, even including the second generation stepping in the shoes of the patriarch, of the father. En ketz lechol ha'am lechol asher haya lifnehem gam ha'achronim lo yismechu bo ki gam ze hevel ve'rayon ruach. Says when you're number two, I mean, when you're coming and stepping into the shoes of someone, says the Ibn Ezra, you will never satisfy anyone. There's always going to be complaints. Why? Because you're always compared. When you're trying to fill in the shoes of somebody else, when you're trying to be someone else, so you are trying to adapt, emulate an identity that's not yours. And the position that you're putting in yourself in is a position of failure. Because by default, you will always be compared and you will never be able to be your father. Very big lesson. Very big lesson. From two angles. Number one, the father should not expect his son to be him. And the son should not want to be like his father. The father should want his son to be his son and to be him for who he is. And the son should understand that in order to be like his father or have the same impact or the same influence or the same charisma of his father, it's not by being the father, it's by being himself and true to himself.
Don't worry, Rabbi. Could never be my father's charisma.
Huh? No, I'm not talking to you, Chaz v'shalom.
No,
I'm talking to your son.
I'm personalizing. No,
No,
but
no.
it's been on my mind.
Yes, bevadai. So this is Ibn Ezra's definition of, or the second explanation of Rashi, father, and second in command to the generation. The same thing applies between brothers. If you look in history, the number 2 prevails number 1. Always. Look, you have Cain, number 1, and Heaven. Who was the wicked and who was the good? Heaven. You have Ishmael and you have Yitzhak. Yitzhak prevails. Esav and Yaakov. Moshe, Aaron and Moshe.
What are you saying? Who prevails?
The son number 2. There is a bracha in the son number 2 that the son number 1 doesn't have.
Or
Why?
the second one to market.
I'm sorry?
Or the second one to market. You see all the failures that the first company had, and you knock off them and make it better.
Yeah, but I don't want to go there because there's too many. Very, very possible, but there's too many variables there. So I want to stick to facts.
Well, what are you saying? Moshe prevailed over Aharon.
Look, throughout history, don't worry, Stanley. I'm also a bechor.
No, by the way, you want to know something? I actually asked the rabbi this. I actually asked the rabbi once why the track record of Bechorim in the Torah is so bad. It's awful.
Yeah. So look.
Rav, there's some hope for me because I'm second in command.
I'm fourth. What does that mean for me?
So you're out of the picture. Or maybe you're the second of the second shift. You're the second of the second shift.
I'm the second twin. No, I'm the younger twin. So maybe I have hope there.
So then you're like Yaakov.
Yeah.
There is always, and there's a big chokhmah behind it, tremendous chokhmah behind it. The Hayeled Hasheni, the second son, is always by default, okay, under the shadow of the Bechorah of the first. The first gets double portion, right? The Bechor in the Torah gets double everybody else. That's the Torah. You have to give double. The Bechor, the role of the Bechor is to carry the responsibility
Parents.
of the parents. It's the link. It's supposed to be the link between the family and the legacy of the father. The Bechor is always the closest to his father. He's the loved one. He's the protected one, but is the one that's being judged the most. Okay? Usually the Bechor is the one that's always wrong. Why? Because the father expects so much from the Bechor that the Bechor will take all the pressure. When it works, you build a man that is extremely responsible and extremely engaged with the obligations of the family. When this doesn't happen, the Bechor breaks, and the Bechor becomes a victim of his own destiny. Okay? So the Bechor plays a role that is, on one end, very sensitive and very difficult, but is blessed on the other with what? With double the shares of everyone. However, Chachamim tell us that his presence, his power, the role, the place that he takes in the eyes of the family could be destructive and disruptive to the number 2, because he's not number 1. So Hashem has blessed the number 2 with a chen, with an ease, with an ability to do things better, faster, so that he can independently build himself up and rise in the eyes of his father too. So there is a default level and connection of the Bechor, and there is the ability, the facility, if you will, okay, that's preset in the second to be able to rise with his own actions and gain the trust and the love and the respect of his father.
Rob, do these concepts, are we supposed to take them literally and say that if you look at every Bechor, and no, can't be.
No, time out. The answer is yes, but those are fundamentals. Now, each Bechor reacts different to each father. Depends on who the father is.
Different environments.
Exactly. The environment, there's a lot of factors. I mean, you cannot expect every Bechor to react the same way.
Or number twos to be the number two that you described.
Correct. However, it is clear that if the father plays his role, okay, and if the number one plays his role, and in the number two plays his role, that this is what's going to come out.
But 1 second, are you saying that there's a possible happy ending where the Bechor is a success, the number two is a success, and the father plays a proper role?
For sure.
If everyone follows the rules.
Who's the perfect example? Moshe and Aaron.
Yes.
But it's very unlikely. It's very difficult to reach that. And how do we know this? When Moshe is told to go on behalf of God and speak to Paro, Moshe refuses, right? He has this whole argument.
And Aharon's heart will be happy. Hashem says,
Hashem tells, did I tell you this Hidush?
No.
Hashem, beautiful. What you said is the Rabbeinu Behaye. Rabbeinu Behaye says that. Chazak u'baruch, ashrecha. And he says, why does Hashem tell Moshe, don't worry, Aaron is happy? Why? Says Rabbeinu Behaye, because the nature of brothers is to be competitive. And it leads them to hate each other. That's the nature of brothers. And if you don't work on the relationship, you will not have two brothers that love each other. Because they take for granted that they're brothers, so they have to be connected and they have to love each other. Says Rabbeinu Bechaye, if you take for granted your relationship, you're going to end up hating it.
It's like being wealthy.
Why? Yes. Why? Why two brothers have to hate each other? Very simple, says Rabbeinu Bechaye. Because one is the chosen one as a Bechor, and the second one is the successful one. So the Bechor sees the successful one and says, well, look how successful you are. You had it easy. I have to suffer. I'm the Bechor. And the successful one says, oh, look at him. My father loves you. They always love you. You're the backbone of the family. How can that be? Why am I not the backbone? So there is an underlying conflict that always happens, that is never discussed and ever addressed. But when you love each other, when you work on each other, then you become Moshe and Aaron. This is what was so particular and so amazing between Moshe and Aaron. And that's why the Torah states that this is the brotherhood, this is the achdut you should have. If we look back, every brotherhood was catastrophic. Cain and Hevel. Noah, the sons of Noah. Okay? Ishmael and Yitzchak. Yaakov and Esav. Yosef and Achav. Comes the Torah, Moshe and Aaron, and introduce that to be able to love, you need to be Aaron. And who is Aaron? Ohev Shalom ve'rodef Shalom. Somebody that loves peace will build his relationship with his brother, will be proud of his brother, will love seeing his brothers rise higher than him. But at the end, you will guide, but he will be your mouth. He will be your porte-parole. There is an intimate compatibility between the brothers that brings out this beautiful harmony and power between Moshe and Aaron. So comes Shlomo HaMelech and says, I see how challenging it is to be a number two. Because you're under the umbrella, you're under the shade of the number one. And that dynamic under the sun, meaning when you don't have the chokhmah, when you don't have the neshama, when you don't have Moshe ve'Aharon's philosophy, is chaos. Tahat HaShemesh.
Beautiful.
Tov.
That's a way to end.
Chazaka Baruch.
I'm not ending. All right, guys.
Thank you,
so
Rav.
much.
I love you guys. Thank you so
Love
much
you.
for everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Besorot tovot. Thank you. Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you, Rav. I love you.
Love you more, Motek. Thank you, Rahim.